All right, so here we go with the create your own blur two ways. Gaussian blur is what we're going to use. Um, so in this assignment, basically what we're going to do is we're going to download this photo here, and then we're going to blur the background. So sometimes when you take photos, right, you want a blurry background. And, maybe sometimes when you took the photo, that doesn't always work out for you, right? Maybe the background didn't get as blurry as you wanted. So you can go in with Photoshop and kind of create some artificial blur. Doesn't always look as good, but it is doable. And so it's a good way to apply some of the stuff that we've been learning, some of the techniques we've been learning to kind of a different scenario, right? So we've learned how to use the lasso tool to make selections. So we'll explore a little bit how we can use, selections to apply a blur. And then we just learned about layer masks, right? So that's the other way that we can do it. So when you think about the layer mask, how we turn that picture black and white and then paint it back in the color, we can kind of use that same technique here to blur the background in our photo. So we'll explore with this both ways. A couple of important things you need to know with this. When you get done, I want you to turn in both photos that you did with each technique, and I want you to label them. And then I want you to tell me which one did you like better, which method did you like better, and why. Right? Maybe one was easier, maybe one was harder, maybe one was more forgiving, maybe one looked better. Right? So tell me which one you liked and why. So again, make sure you put that on your final document along with both photos before you submit it. Or you can also submit it as a comment afterwards if you forget. But I do want to see both photos labeled with which technique you used. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and download this photo here of the zebra and dude. So again, make sure you click on the download image button so you get the full size image. And I, of course, have already done this a bunch of times, so I'm not going to do it again, just to save myself some space. But you want to go ahead and download it and save it to your computer or your Chromebook, and then we're going to go ahead and go to photopea.com. And we'll go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is go ahead and open up that file, which is called Zebra Safari with Owner. And open here. All right, so the first technique we're going to use is the selection tool. So we're going to go up here to our lasso tools, and we're just going to use the magnetic lasso, and we're going to select the zebra out. So you should be pretty experienced at this by now, right? We've done a bunch of selections using this magnetic lasso tool. It looks like it's having some trouble here with picking between the black stripes and the background, so I may have to kind of help it along by clicking and creating those anchor points where I want them. And remember, if it puts an anchor point where I don't want it, all right, I can always hit backspace and delete that anchor point and then put in my own manual anchor point. So too sharp there. Again, this may take a little bit of practice here to get everything set. Remember, you can always go back and add to your selection or subtract from your selection. All right, Photopea here has those nice buttons up there. One's called Join or Unify, something like that. That adds to your selection, right? And then it has another button up there that subtracts from your selection. So we discovered those. We went through the selection tools. All right. Well, I'm going to have to go back and adjust some of this a little bit. Just try to get it the best I can for right now. Bottom here. And back to the beginning. There we go. So we got our selection. Again, it's not perfect, so we'll go up here and maybe use some of our other selection tools and use the Unite. That's what they call it, Unite. And we'll go ahead and clean up these edges because they're kind of rough, right? And then maybe we'll go here to the regular lasso select tool. Zoom in, right? Control plus. And just kind of clean up our selection. So Yeah, here we want to add a little bit more of this ear that I missed. Oops. Make sure I'm on Unite. Each time I switch the tool, I got to switch the mode. Unite that a little bit. Let's get a little bit more of this hair here. Quite get right there the way I wanted. Quite get that perfectly. All right, oh, it looks like I got maybe a little bit too much here under the nose. So again, we have the subtract option, right? A solid circle with the circle that's not solid. So we'll go ahead, just kind of freehanding it. There we go. All right, so once I got my selection here looking pretty good, I'll go up here and go to select and do select inverse because I want to blur everything but the zebra. And I'm also going to feather it because I kind of want to smooth the edges out a little bit. So I'm going to go down to select, modify, and feather. And I'm gonna apply like a, I don't know, like a 20 pixel feather. It's a pretty high quality image, so pretty high pixel feather. Hit OK. And then we're going to go ahead and apply our blur. So we're going to go to filter, we're going to go down to blur, and we're going to go to this one that's called Gaussian Blur. So the nice thing about Gaussian Blur is we can control the amount of blur that gets applied. So if you notice there, just with the regular amount, right, it just kind of barely blurred the background and left the zebra in focus. But I'm going to crank it way up so you can really kind of tell what it's doing, so you can really see the difference. So there we go. Like 47 pixels, 45 pixels. And the background's pretty much blurred out and our zebra's in focus, right? So we achieved what we wanted, hit OK, and then I'll go to select, deselect, and we can see what it looks like. So not bad. I probably could spend a little bit more time cleaning up my selection, but trying to go kind of quick here. But there we go. There's our zebra. He's cut out, and that was with the selection tool. Doesn't look terrible. Obviously, if you take your time and make a really good selection, it'll turn out pretty well. So I'm going to go up here, and again, we want to save this because we want to get both versions on one document. So I'm going to go up to File, Export as JPEG, and I want to save this at 100% quality for now because I am going to use it on another document. So everything gets saved. And again, I want to make sure I keep track of which one was which. And so this was blur with the selection tool, so that's what I'm going to name it. Blur using selection tool. You can tell I already did this once, but my recording crashed about halfway through, so doing it again. All right, so I went ahead and saved that there as blur with the selection tool. And now we need to go ahead and open up this photo again so we can do it with the other technique. So we'll go ahead and go File, Open. And again, we got to look for Zebra Safari with owner. And hit Open. And there we go, we're back to our original photo with no blur. So thinking about what we did last time, right, where we turned the picture black and white and then we brought the color back in. We can use that same technique here to blur the background. So the idea is that we'll go ahead and blur the photo and then we'll paint the in focus part back in using that same technique of a layer mask. So the first thing we need to do in order to accomplish this is we need to make a copy of the background. So you can right click on the background and say duplicate layer, and that'll get you a background copy. Or you can take the background layer and drag it down to the new layer button, which looks like a piece of paper, and that'll also get you a background copy. But one way or the other, we need to get a background copy of this image. So now we got our duplicate layers here. We'll go ahead and blur the top layer. So we want to keep the background layer this original way, fully in focus. Everything looks good, right? And we want to take our background copy, because that's the layer we want to blur, and then we're going to paint through it. So we'll go ahead and go up to filter, make sure we have the background copy selected, and go to blur and choose Gaussian blur. And again, we'll crank it up to like 35 again. Give it kind of roughly the same amount of blur. Unfortunately, it goes really slow. There we go. All right. Whatever, 39. Close enough. There you go. Go ahead and hit OK. And now, obviously, if we just started painting, it's not going to work because we don't have that layer mask. So if you remember last time, right, when we did the black and white image, it automatically linked a layer mask there that allowed us to paint through the effect and see what's underneath. But obviously, we don't have that here with this background copy. So I need to add it. So we're going to go down here to the bottom, and you can see it's a little square with a circle in it. That is our layer mask. Actually, here they're calling it a raster mask. Means the same thing. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and now as you can see, now we have that little chain link symbol, and we have that white box like we had before with the black and white. And that again is our layer mask. So when we go over here with our paintbrush, anywhere we paint with black is going to let the bottom show through, and anywhere we paint with white is going to keep the blur, right? So, and for some reason that's on a blue color. Let's get it back to black and white there. All right. So again, remember the X switches between black and white for us, which is nice. And the bracket keys on your keyboard, which are above the enter keys, increases and decreases the size of your brush. And you can always go up here and adjust the size and hardness. I go with a pretty soft brush, just because that kind of helps feather the edges for me automatically as I paint. So I'm going to go ahead and here with a pretty big brush here, just kind of paint in the zebra. And because I'm in a hurry, I'm just going to do it kind of roughly. Again, making adjustments to the size of my brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and then clean up the edges here. All right, and that's kind of the nice thing about using the layer mask, right, is that you can go in and make adjustments, right? Whereas when you use the selection tool, once you did it, once you blurred everything, you were done, right? Where in here you can kind of go in and make adjustments to the fine details. So again, I'm going to go into my channels here, and I'm going to turn on the layer mask so I can kind of see what I'm doing. I could also turn off the RGB, and I can see, oh, I missed a spot right here. So let's go ahead and paint that in a little bit better. All right, turn this back on, and let's go ahead and work on cleaning this up. I'll have to blow it up just a little bit more. Actually, control. Oops, wrong color. So again, just hit the X key, and I can switch colors just real easy. And go along here and kind of clean up my selection, feather it in, feather it out. That was not the greatest. Going a little bit too quick, maybe. There we go. So again, anywhere I paint with white, it's going to get blurred. Anywhere that's painted with black, it's not going to be blurred. It's going to be the original photo. I'm going to go in here and just kind of refine the edges here. So yeah, that's kind of the nice thing here with this layer mask is you can just really dial it in the way that you want. And if you don't like something that's real quick and easy to make changes to it, because you just paint with the opposite color, right? I'm not so sure that my method of just kind of over painting and then coming in and cleaning up was the quickest. But I thought it might be quicker. I don't know. You know, you kind of work the way that you like. You try to paint really good to begin with, and then you don't have to come in here and make so many corrections. Or you can do a real rough job and then just kind of come in and tidy it up. Squeeze down some more brush here to get around his chin. Alright, so it looks to me like that's looking pretty good. So let's turn this off, see how it looks. Oh, it looks pretty sweet, I think. Alright, so I'll go ahead and turn off that layer mask, and there we go. That's what the final photo looks like. Again, if I want to go in here and adjust anything, like maybe I want some more of his mane in here, I can go ahead and do that. And in a later episode, we'll talk even more how to really pick up the fine hairs. But for this one, I think that'll work. Alright, so to me that looks pretty good. There we go. Alright, so I'll go ahead and save this one as... Oh, actually, let me get a little less up here. A little too much background there. There we go. Alright, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. Oop. There we go. Go up to File, Export As, JPEG. Again, we'll leave it at 100% quality. And we're going to call this one Blur using the layer mask. And go ahead and hit Save. And again, as I said, I want both of them on the same document. So we'll go up to File, and we'll go down to New Document. And for this one, we'll just go ahead and let's name it Blur Project. And we're going to go ahead and just make it a standard piece of paper. So we'll switch to inches here. And we'll make the width 11 inches and the height 8.5. And the quality 300 dots per inch. And go ahead and hit Create. And then, right, to get our photos in there, we'll go ahead and go to File, Open in Place. Let's start with Blur using Selection Tool. So that was the one we did first. There we go. And again, we'll use the Move tool to shrink it. And again, I'll hold down the Shift key as I shrink it so that it doesn't distort. Get him placed up there. And I'm going to want to label him, so I'll go down here to the Type tool, and we'll add some text. So this is Blur using, I'll just call it Selection Tool. All right, so that was using the Selection tool. Obviously that text is really small, so I need to go up here to my size and blow it way up so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. And I'll put it over the top of it here so that we know which one we're working, which one we're talking about. So there's my selection tool, one. And then I'll go ahead and place in my layer mask one. So File, Open in Place. Blur using selection mask. And again, I'll shrink this down and stick it in the other corner. Again, holding down the Shift key so I don't distort anything. And we'll go ahead and label that one too, so just to be lazy, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this so my font's already the right size. And I'll just move my copy over there, and then I'll go ahead and change it. And we're going to call it Layer Mask. Alright. So layer Mask. Selection tool. And let's add a bit of color to this. So in the background, I'll go ahead and add a gradient here. Again, the gradient goes from your foreground color to your background color. So why don't we get a little blue and gold going on here. background. And then, as I said, I want you to also tell me which one you liked and why. So I liked which tool? Layer mask selection tool, that's up to you. And then because, and why did you like it? Was one easier? Did one do a better job? Did one get better results? What was it that you liked about the tool or the technique better than the other tool? All right. And then go ahead and save that. All right, export as a JPEG and go ahead and turn it into Schoology. All right. Actually, looking at mine, they turned out pretty similar. I think maybe my layer mask had a little bit more detail on the main. But, you got pretty similar results if you know what you're doing with both of them. But the question is, which one did you like using better and why? All right. So have fun and good luck.